Welcome back to some more StarCraft Evolution. If you've never seen this mod before, the premise, it's pretty straightforward. We have one player playing with StarCraft 2 units, and the other player playing with Brood War units instead. So spawning right here in the bottom right-hand corner of the good old map Oceanborn, one of the modern maps in StarCraft 2. We're looking at none other than True's main hatchery, and he's gonna be playing with the StarCraft 1 Zerg. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the blue Terran SCVs, the StarCraft 2 SCVs that is. We're looking at Supernova's main command center. This particular mod has been gaining a ton of popularity over the last couple of weeks, especially on Korea. Even the GSL announced, I believe, that they're doing some show matches for this sort of thing, which is amazing. So, very excited to see what exactly is gonna end up going down here. This is a match that was played, I think, last week, maybe 2 weeks or so ago, so it's a little bit older. From what I understand, by talking to the developers for a little bit, they have been making a bunch of balance adjustments here and there, because obviously, well, things like, for example, researching siege mode for siege tanks can be a little bit tedious. From what I understand, that, for example, is back in the game right now, but they did experiment with taking that out for just a little bit. Anyways, I'm not exactly sure if they've made any significant changes, but we are, for this particular matchup anyways, where the Zerg is playing with the Brood War pieces, but we are just gonna have a look and see exactly what ended up going down between these two. Obviously, one important difference for Brood War compared to StarCraft 2 Zerg is that there are no queens. There are no queens. You don't have queens. How do you spread creep? How are you gonna produce anything? It's gonna get very strange, I think. One advantage, I guess, that you do have here as Zerg is that you don't really need as much larva, because Zerglings are way more powerful. I'm assuming they will look pretty much the same. Well, we have them coming up right now. Wait, do we have... Okay, yeah, there we go. We actually have 2 little Zerglings on each of the cocoons. Interesting. All right, lair coming up. Metabolic boost is going to finish up in a moment. Natural expansion here will be coming up too. In StarCraft 1, for example, you usually don't need nearly as much gas early as the Zerg. They look weird. They look very funny. But yeah, one thing you can do is go into a quick 1-base Spire. That is not even that crazy. You could go into a hatchery tech Hydra then. There's a lot of weird stuff that you can do with the Zerg from StarCraft 1. It is interesting though. Obviously they have a bunch of units that you don't have access to in StarCraft 2, so right from the get-go, this is gonna get really funky. Anyways, haven't really seen any Zerg yet in this mod, so we'll have to find out together. In the meantime, Supernova, by the way, going for a pretty normal build, it looks like. I think he's gonna go for some Hellions. No reactors in Brood War, and obviously no Hellions either. But I guess, well, one advantage for True is that he doesn't have to worry about vultures or anything like that. So, now we do have ourselves a creep colony coming up. That is one of the ways to spread a little bit of creep, but usually this is, well, going to be for that, what do we call it again? A sunken colony? I think it's a sunken colony. That should be what's coming up right now. It's been a little bit as well since I've played StarCraft 1 myself. All right, the Reaper gets surrounded easy peasy, and even though this looked like a very aggressive opener to me, this is actually True just trying to go straight into a Spire. Both of these players, by the way, ex-StarCraft 2 professionals. I haven't really seen them playing quite a bit. I think these are 2 examples of players that went off to the military, and then when they finished, they tried playing the game a little bit, but they never really got back to their previous level. So I haven't really seen either Supernova or True over the last while. But yeah, we'll see how good they are. So this is indeed a sunken colony. It functions... Oh, look at that cute little Zergling. It functions kind of similarly to a spine crawler, of course, except the little spines will pop out of the ground as soon as one of these Hellions gets within range. Yeah, I know Supernova still occasionally plays StarCraft 2, but I don't really know exactly how good he is. I haven't really seen True play in a bit, but I know a lot of the Korean professionals, or at least a lot of the Korean StarCraft 2 professionals that used to play back in the day, they also do play a lot of Brood War usually. A lot of them come from Brood War, and over in Korea, it seems like StarCraft 1 is the far more popular game right now than StarCraft 2. So a lot of them played StarCraft 2 professionally, finished up their military service, and then went back to StarCraft 1, which I always think is pretty cool. StarCraft 1 definitely one of those games that is never going to, you know, maybe one day StarCraft 2 can kind of fade out of existence, although I have a hard time imagining that as well. But StarCraft 1 is just a cultural phenomenon at this point. That's never really going to change, I don't think. Anyways, seems like StarCraft 2 actually is very similar. There's always going to be a hardcore community that will be interested in this game. At least I hope so. We've got ourselves a Hydra Tank coming up right now. Those Mutas not really achieving much. I find this opener from True questionable to say the least, but I can imagine this is also one of his first times playing with this style. Supernova, interestingly enough, not building up nearly as many workers as he really could have. He's going to be playing Terran mech. Interesting. So we're actually just going full Terran mech. There's already a Thor coming up. He did make a bunch of Cyclones. I thought those were just meant to defeat these Mutas, but... Okay. Let's see. Ooh, that looks... That is one of the most cursed things that I've ever seen. Glial reconstitution. Being researched in a Hydralisk den. I'm not exactly sure. I do have my sound on, right? Yeah, I do. Okay. I didn't hear it myself, but I've got my audio way far down. Alrighty, Hydralisks are hitting the battlefield here in just a moment. We've got ourselves a 4th base coming up. One thing I have noticed in looking at quite a few of these games so far is that Terrans really are turtling a lot. I don't really know exactly if this is just the way that StarCraft 1 is currently played, but I have seen a ton of Terrans in the StarCraft Evolution mod. Well, I haven't seen a ton of games, I guess. I've seen about maybe a dozen games at this point. A lot of them are sitting back. A lot of them are sitting back and they're mostly just chilling. Trying to build up that big army, slowly macroing up. Not really a whole lot of timing attacks in general. They actually look so cool, look at that. I love that classic Hydralisk look. That's amazing. I've been painting some Tyranids. This looks a lot like a Warhammer 40,000 Tyranid. Alright, so after I guess the Speedy Boy upgrade, we have an image in StarCraft 2 obviously for muscular augments. But anyways, we're now also gonna go for grooved spines. So we are gonna be getting both of the upgrades here eventually. This is usually how you generate more larvae, by the way, in StarCraft 1. Since you don't have access to queens, you usually end up going for more hatcheries. Obviously, one major advantage, though, for Zerg is that you do have an easy way of hotkeying all of your stuff. Maneuvering around a large army of Zerg in particular is very difficult. So when you get to like 100 supply in StarCraft 1, just moving around your army takes a ton of effort. A little bit less so for example, Protoss as it would for Zerg. Mostly just because, well, with Protoss you have like 6 units in total. They're all very, very supply heavy. Bit of an exaggeration. But with Zerg, obviously, if you want to move 100 supply worth of Zerglings, it's gonna take you a long time. The game actually looks so good. It's actually really cool. Once upon a time, so these assets, I think they are produced by Blizzard. A lot of the assets, anyway. These classic skins are available. They did add them to the editor a long time ago. But they do really, they do look really cool. Now, what is this? True is gonna go into Queens. Remember when Brenda told you that back before the Brood War, she used to be able to fly? Well, guess what? This is Brenda in her younger years. Do we have a Queen's Nest? No, we don't have a Queen's Nest. Maybe this is one of the things you can experiment with in this mod right now. Anyways, there she goes. If I'm not mistaken, usually Queens in this matchup are played when Terrans are turtling. Kind of in a similar way as like Liberators can kind of force an engagement. This is like your long-range tool to try and get some damage done to the Terran. Obviously, they have a couple different abilities. Like, for example, Spawn Brutling. That's very helpful. Parasite, I guess. What's the last one? Ensnare? Yeah, he'll probably be using them to try and fight those sieged-up tanks. We do indeed have the research go. Oh, this is the Queen's Nest. Ah, okay. I think there is actually a graphic for a Queen's Nest right now. I think there is one in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they changed this one. Anyways. We've creep colonies set up all over the map right now, just trying to make sure that those run-bys can't really deal that much damage. But again, you see what I mean? Like a very passive game from Terran. I'm a little surprised that Terrans are playing as hesitantly as they have been in the games that I've seen. Just no real plan of attack, just sitting back and trying to max out. And in my mind, that is one of the most boring ways to play a game of StarCraft. You're basically playing SimCity at that point, and I like playing SimCity. I'm a big fan of city builders in general, but I don't love the passivity very much. True also hasn't really tried attacking too much though, but I guess he's seen the amount of siege tanks, so he hasn't really bothered. Devourers would be a really cool addition here as well, actually, for the Zerg. But apparently instead we're making loads of queens. He's actually going mass queen. I think this is true, actually, just having a bit of a giggle. You don't, like, this is one of the most uncommon units in StarCraft 1. We have 21 queens, long before a real stalemate. I don't think that this is what you normally would be doing. Oh, perfect scan right there by Supernova. You will see exactly what's happening. Okay. So, ultimately here what Supernova is building is what we consider to be quite the death bowl in StarCraft 2 right now. This is Ghost Mech. Yeah, Ghost Mech with loads of missile turrets for support. This is one of those unit compositions that is just straight up very difficult to beat. It is beatable. Oh. There's 17 holes in the wall off. Anyways, it is beatable, but it's not easily done. If I'm not mistaken, the queens, by the way, have no option to attack by themselves. But exactly, that's what they can do. They can use that Parasite ability to create some Broodlings. Or they can use... No, Parasite is a different ability, right? I think they have Parasite, which gives them vision. And then they can use it, there you go, to spawn Broodlings in some of the opponent's units as well, which is really quite convenient. Oh my god, I think he's just rapid firing it as much as possible. Look at that. Yeah, Brenda used to be more nimble back in the day. It is a very costly unit composition. But Parasite is something that Zergs can use in Brood War to gain vision. So if you cast it on one of the Terran units, which I don't think True did in this particular instance, but you should get permanent vision of a Parasite that, well, has infected one of those units from the opponent. He's got so much money in the bank though, I think he's pretty happy just sending in wave after wave of unit. Obviously, he could make Guardians if he wants to. I don't think that would be a terrible choice, although I have no idea how Guardians play out against, for example, Ghosts or a bunch of Thors. There aren't really that many Thors, and there aren't really that many Ghosts yet. There's actually apparently Supernova is running the... Is it the Nova? I think that's from the Nova Covert Ops. The Nova skin. Okay. Dude, that is a lot of Hydras. Hydras against Terran Mech makes me very uncomfortable. That being said though, the Terran Mech player here is way out of position. There are a couple of siege tanks in the back, but the queens are gonna be able to try and help out in that department. No, they're just throwing around a bunch of Broodlings. Terran is still split up. Are they gonna move forward? No, they're gonna be moving back. That means that he's gonna take a lot of losses. I think True will be more than happy to lose a lot of these Hydras. To just... well, trade them out and then reinforce with even more, right? He's got 3-3 coming up right now. 21 Hydralisk on the production tab. Queen's trying our best to just infect whatever they can. So far though, Supernova getting a very efficient trade. At least considering he was way out of position, that Zerg army just disappeared. I was a little bit afraid actually that the Hydras were just gonna go into the main base and just destroy everything. But ultimately, he didn't even really lose that much infrastructure in this section of the map. It's funny, because the Hydras look the same as the StarCraft 1, or the StarCraft 2 Hydras that I'm well familiar with. But then even though they look similar, their stats are way different. Obviously, there are no roaches in StarCraft 1, right? So the Hydra is considered to be a tier 1 unit, or maybe like a tier 1.5 unit. Whereas for StarCraft 2, you can't get them out until you get to Lair. I believe they're also only one supply each, aren't they? I think they're only one supply. It's actually kind of crazy. Should do that in StarCraft 2. see how it goes. That'd be insane. Oh, we have another meat grinder, but if the queens have any say in the matter, there you go. We're gonna just throw the brootlings around everywhere. They're actually dealing quite a bit of damage. Hydra's once again trying to break through this exact same spot. We have a few of the ladies laying down the guns and sniping down whatever they can. Command center in itself is gonna end up falling down, but this is very costly for True. That being said though, I say that and then I glance at the bottom of the screen. True is literally doing this off of 105 drones. Literally one... Ooh, look at this. Ooh, this Hydra. Sick flip. Anyways, 105 drones give you a ridiculous income. So basically the entire game long so far, True has been substantially ahead when it comes to the amount of money that he's bringing back. It's just that his army does not have nearly as much firepower. 17 SCVs just fell. And rather than replacing the SCVs that are lost, we're replacing them with additional attacking units instead. Supernova taking the left lane of the map right now. Looks like True is not really planning on fighting that army again. I think his plan is probably to try and just reinforce this with as many units as possible and use his army to fight the opponent's structures. So maybe force a base race. Yep, that's exactly what we're doing. So this is a mass Hydra Queen army. This Terran mech force is strong. It certainly wins against True in a straight up battle, but I don't think True is really ever going to give that. Loads of damage being done on the other side of the map too. A hatchery will be made over here in just a moment after the planetary fortress falls. Okay. A couple of sunken colonies here trying their very best, but that is a bit too much Terran. As the Hydras here are forced to fight units that they normally have never seen before. These are like... Well, I was gonna call them different... I guess it's just different than Valkyries. Yeah, they're a little bit different for sure. Very scary though. This is a lot of Zerg. This is actually just about to be a really crazy match, because I don't think True has any intention of going home. He's just trying to reinforce his army. He's not using his reinforcements to try and kill these units from the opponent. And you may have a gajillion resources in the bank, but if you can't actually spend it because you need larvae, life can be very weird. So he's making a bunch of hatcheries all over the map. One of the hatcheries has been found. In the meantime, though, the second natural expansion from Supernova has been destroyed. Hydras derping against each other over here at the bottom of the main ramp. Okay. Terran, in the meantime, is destroying the Zerg's natural. He's thinking about going into the lurker tech, but we are a long while away from that at this point. Probably should have researched that about 15 minutes ago, give or take. You guys really need to get a move into the main base. Might be worth reminding everybody, by the way, that the win condition in StarCraft 2, StarCraft 1, and StarCraft EVO is exactly the same. And that is to destroy all of your opponent's structures. So I guess I'll be switching it over towards the structures tab in the top left. Problem here for the Zerg, of course, is that the Terran structures can fly. And you can, well, if they're burning, obviously they're going to burn down. But you can fly one in the corner. And it'll be very difficult. You can almost force the engagement. It'll be very difficult for Zerg to actually reach it. Okay. There's still a lot of structures available for the Zerg, though. These gas geysers do count at the bottom of the map. So Supernova may just be getting the engagement that he's been hoping for. And ultimately, that is 108 army supply for the Zerg versus 85, 83 now, for the Terran. Queen's going around the site trying to get some work done. Base over here up north also gets stolen again. Those extra hatcheries coming in clutch. But yeah, True definitely does not have enough larva production at this point to properly spend all of his money. He's going into a new spawning pool here to try and just remake it. I think if he could have had lurkers here, it would have been really good for him. Oh my god, okay, well, that was pretty good. Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna argue that that was a bad situation. And here comes the rest of the swarm. The Hydras are coming down the ramp, and I think this is going to seal the deal. StarCraft 1 Zerg. I think it ends up taking down StarCraft 2 Terran. GG. Alrighty. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Equilibrium. This is the man who we just saw playing StarCraft 2 Terran. This time around, though, he's playing the StarCraft 1 Terran pieces instead. He goes by the name of Supernova. His opponent, in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Protoss pieces, an absolute channel favorite, we're looking at none other than Parting's main Nexus. It's like all the names that I used to cast a lot. They're all playing this now, over the last couple weeks it seems. Yeah. Supernova takes on Parting. I haven't casted a game yet, actually, of Brood War Terran in this mod, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, I know they made some changes over the course of time where at some point you didn't really need to research Siege mode. But apparently, from what I understand, the Korean fans really wanted Brood War Terran and Zerg and Protoss to all be as close to Brood War as possible. So now they've added it back in, but they are still actively switching around. So I'm not exactly sure which version of Terran we're going to get here. But I think it's safe to assume that StarCraft 2 will be mostly unchanged as far as all the units go. Although I guess if we need some very delicate balancing, they could certainly go ahead and change some of those numbers. Yeah, I've been really liking this mod. It's been a lot of fun. So what exactly does Terran have in this mode that... Well, I mean, you can turtle. You can still turtle if you want to. But what exactly does Terran have in StarCraft 1 that they don't have in StarCraft 2? Well, the first obvious thing is that vultures are available. In StarCraft 2, the Hellion, of course, basically has taken the place of the Vulture. Vultures have an ability that allows them to lay down mines all over the map. Widow mines are nowhere. They don't exist in Brood War. There are science vessels. There's a bunch of changes. The Valkyrie, I already brought up those. Don't forget about the Medic. The Medic is another one of those units that, interestingly enough, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't introduced. Oh, you can't lower these depots. You have to use the barracks as a door. Anyways, the Medic wasn't introduced until the Brood War expansion pack, which I always think is kind of funny. The dropship is only a dropship. It does not do... Oh, really, Parting? Alright. It does not do anything other than drop units. No healing or anything like that. Goliaths, I guess, are like baby Thors? Or maybe the Thor, a better way to look at it might be that the Thor is like a large Goliath. Anyways, Parting, immediately doing Parting things. He decides to go for a good old Stargate right here at the, well, proxy location right outside of the Terran's main. We just saw Supernova playing StarCraft 2 Terran, and he was playing very turtly. I know he plays a bunch of StarCraft 2. He's still active on the ladder. For some reason, I'm thinking he mostly plays the NA ladder, but maybe I'm mistaken there. I'm not exactly sure. I feel like I've seen his name at the top of Grandmaster League there, but... I don't really know if this is exactly how he currently plays, and if he's going to be doing it with Brood War Terran 2, but I'm hoping to see a bit more of an active playstyle. Ooh, there's the machine shop. The machine shop. That's so funny. Alright, we've got ourselves a siege tank coming up, but he is researching what I would imagine is the Vulture mine upgrade. So, I am assuming here that indeed this is the version of the game where siege mode is researched by default. But apparently they've gone back on that, and now that's no longer the case. Anyways, Oracle is going to be popping out here in just a moment for Parting. It's going to be a major skill check. Currently, there are 3 Marines available. That is a problem. It's a very significant problem. He queues up a Vulture, but last time I checked, Vultures are not particularly great here either. At the very least, it does take 3 shots right here to kill these SCVs. But that is so much damage on just a single Oracle. 9 kills already. We have another upgrade over here in the machine shop. I'm trying to think what that upgrade could be. I guess... Is there a speed upgrade for the... I guess there is. That looks like a speed upgrade right there to me. But some of the icons, I guess, do have a little bit of overlap. I think this is the Vulture mine upgrade that just finished up, and then this has to be the Vulture speed improvement. Okay, 18 SCVs though. Absolutely no losses yet on the side of Parting. This is going to be a very difficult game right here for Supernova. Parting, in the meantime, is taking another Nexus. This looks to me like GG. Because I don't really see exactly what Supernova can do. I mean, yeah, he does have Vultures. Those are nice and all. No idea how Vultures line up against Okay. I have no idea how they line up against Adepts. Nice targeting right there, actually, by Parting. Look at that. Parting, by the way, seems to be a multiple RTS enjoyer at the moment. Turns out he's good at everything. Dang. That's actually so bad, though, for Supernova. Even the Vultures right now get nothing done. We've got 16, 9, and then 10 kills. I guess those mines do take one of those numbers there. Yeah, he doesn't have enough mines anymore. You can only spawn a couple of them. I think it's 3 per Vulture. Even though he's getting a bit of damage done now. Okay, there we go. Finally an explosion. Getting a little bit of damage done. This is not really what he was hoping for. The Vulture mines do deal a lot of damage, though. And as soon as they're set up defensively, look at another one sneaking into the main base. We're not thinking about setting anything up defensively, so they take a little bit before they burrow. Yeah, and then they need a little bit as well before they can fire. It's an interesting unit. It requires a ton of micro. Although I guess rapid fire does make it all a little bit easier. For StarCraft 2 in particular. I've always liked Vultures. I think Vultures are actually such a cool unit. I think what Parting should have done is actually just continue producing out of the Stargate. He clearly was not planning on it. Yeah, he wants to go into Colossi here. Colossi together with Blink. But I'm wondering if that was the right call. We have a whole lot of factories here once again for Supernova, though. He's gonna end up playing a bunch of Terran mech, which I don't believe is particularly common against Protoss. I have no idea how good Terran mech is ever going to be, StarCraft Brood War mech that is, against units like, for example, the Immortal. Because Brood War Protoss does not have access to the Immortal. And in my mind, Immortals absolutely tear apart StarCraft Terran mech. StarCraft 1 Terran mech, that is. But I'm honestly not entirely sure. Ooh. Ooh. You know what's funny? Sound effects are so nostalgic. We could very faintly hear the Zergling attacks and the Hydra attacks and whatnot in the previous game. Hearing the attack of the missile turret is actually really sweet. It's so fun. Okay. Parting attempting to go for a gold base. But you know what? This was looking like a horrible game for Supernova just recently. And it's still pretty terrible. But it's not as bad as it once used to be. Here we have the siege tanks, by the way. Look at them. I don't like the way the StarCraft 1 siege tanks look very much. Nah, I think the StarCraft 2 visual for siege tanks is way better. But it is kind of cool to see. Look at that. They look so weird. I mean, yeah. The Goliaths are going to have a grand old time. Shooting away at whatever they can. Now, this is going to be tricky here for Supernova. He wants to secure that command center on the low ground. But how in the world do we do this? I can imagine that against Brood War Protoss, Terran mech is not a bad choice. I just think Immortals are going to be insane, right? Stalkers are going to be really good too. I guess it all depends, though, on whether or not the Terran's sieged up. And I guess if you have a lot of spider mines, if you have a lot of mines in front of your army, yeah, exactly. It's going to be difficult for those Immortals to even get remotely close. I'm also thinking that Colossi, though, should be a pretty good choice against these mines, because they should be able to see them from a mile away and just kill them without any issues. Couple of ComSat stations coming up right now. That is, of course, how you unlock abilities like, for example, the scan for Brood War Terran. Very funny. That looks so cursed. This looks like a command center trying to grow a reactor. Which I guess is basically what it is. So theoretically, by the way, in this mod, you can have StarCraft 1 going up against StarCraft 1. I think. At least that wouldn't be a difficult addition, but it seems like the popular game mode right now is to have one player play StarCraft 2 and the other one StarCraft 1. And I think that's probably how it will remain as well. In the games I've seen, though, it all seems relatively balanced. Like, surprisingly balanced. Not really anything too crazy. Ooh, cheeky little spider mine blocking the nexus. He doesn't have detection even remotely close by. He tries again. It doesn't attach, by the way, to the probe. Yeah, it doesn't attach to the probe because the probe is a flying unit. It technically levitates. So that's why the probe managed to stay alive there. Okay. Robotics Bay, researching the observer speed improvement. And Supernova has managed to secure his expansion now, though. I felt like taking the third is going to be really tough. If you look at the supply count, it's actually a bit of a disaster for him. And I still don't really see how he's ever going to be able to obtain the victory against 6 base Protoss. But you can tell here that Parting is actually having a pretty tough time trying to break through all of this. What I would like to see Parting do is maybe go into Tempest. I'm assuming Tempest are going to be a pretty good choice because Goliaths would have a tough time reaching them. But honestly, I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. Okay. Well, here go the vultures. Finding an enemy they have never seen before in the sentry. They are pretty quick, though. And they do quite a bit of damage, too. Stalker Warp In, another ability that does not exist in Brood War. Oh, interesting blink timing. Anyways. You can't really get that done, so... They got locked in. But we are just using this as like a mineral dump. The thing is, Supernova doesn't really have a mineral dump, or he doesn't really need one. He's got more gas than minerals right now. What he's trying to do is just make sure that there are no Zealot run-bys at the bottom of the map. Yeah. Just trying to secure spider mines in a lot of these key locations to make it difficult for Protoss to go for any sort of run-by. I agree with this, by the way. I think the Fleet Beacon is a great choice here by Parting. Now, what in the world would this upgrade be inside of the science facility? I'm not entirely sure. I noticed with the newer patch, we do get the little updates on the right side of the screen that will tell us exactly what's going on. I guess this is the EMP for the science vessel. I guess that's what he's ultimately aiming for here. I mean, it is possible, though. Supernova, I think what he's trying to do is essentially create, like, that full-on bulldozer army. He's been up with his back against the wall for most of the game. It looked like it was a disaster when he lost, like, most of his economy to just a small number of oracles. But I think what he's trying to do right now is just make one big army and win the game with it. And I don't entirely disagree. I think it is possible. He's making a very effective army here. Okay, well, apparently we're ready to go. I think we should wait for another, like, minute or so. I think we're moving just too early. He also knows that his opponent has got to have a lot of money. Storm is coming up right now. We do have a, Jeez, they're slow. They're so slow to siege up. Careful, though, Parting. I don't think you can walk into that. Yeah, that's very awkward. He's gonna try. A lot of the siege tanks currently unsieged. But they will be able to absolutely massacre any unit within range. Okay, Supernova starts up 3-3, which I also don't know if I entirely agree with. Because why in that case are we fighting right now? Well, you know what? This small Terran army seems to be doing quite well. I say small. It's actually comparatively large here. If you compare it right here to the Protoss. It's just that Parting obviously wasn't quite maxed out. Parting did just go for a Zealot Warp in 2. More Zealots here are ready to throw themselves at the mines. They do have a moment where they can potentially kill it. Ah, his army is not to be underestimated. Okay. I would love to see him take a 4th command center in that case. Or just fly over the old main base. Okay, now this is unfortunate though. Yeah, Supernova finding his entire army unsieged against pretty much the entirety of the Protoss force, and that was exactly what Parting was hoping for. Okay, there was a potential for a comeback here. I think Supernova was on the right track. But finding your entire army on siege is even more punishing in StarCraft 1 as it is in StarCraft 2. There, ultimately, we get it done. Parting obtains the victory here, but that did get surprisingly close in the end. One more? Well, for this particular one, I have no idea who's who. But from what I understand, both players are good at the game. Now, we find ourselves on the map called, I guess this is Kespa's new Fighting Spirit? Fighting Spirit is one of the classic maps from StarCraft 1. We're in the top right-hand corner. We have a Protoss player who's playing with what seems to be the Protoss pieces from Brood War. And the opponent, playing with the Red Terran SCVs from StarCraft 2. We're looking at another barcode player. So, two barcodes facing off against each other, where our Protoss player is going for what seems to be a cross-scout spawn first. Oh, thought for a second he was going to be heading on over towards the bottom right-hand corner, but no. He will not be so lucky. This is a classic map, actually, for StarCraft Brood War. I don't know if it's still used in competitive play, but Fighting Spirit is one of those maps that's been around for a very long time. Cool to see. I feel like most of the games that I've seen so far on this map, or on this mod rather, have been played on StarCraft 2 maps, but cool to see that we have a little bit of a Brood War reference here as well. I guess somebody went out of their way to actually remake the map. That's probably what happened, which is why it's, I assume at the very least, called New Fighting Spirit. Yeah, a lot of the Korean players like playing under barcode nicknames. It is what it is. I may not personally be a big fan of that, but in Korea, it seems to be the majority of the players. Okay, so let's see. I have seen a few different openers so far from Protoss against Terran. Brood War Protoss against StarCraft 2 Terran, that is. But obviously it's really hard to say what actually is supposed to be happening. Like, what is the good build? For example, are you supposed to go for a Zealot right now? This weird looking StarCraft 1 looking Zealot? That is a really weird looking Zealot, actually. For some reason, its nerf court looks very rigid. Yeah, it's like a metal bar is on the inside of that nerf court somehow. They have skinny little legs and all of it is a little funky. Anyways, instantly into the ranged upgrade right here for the Dragoons. I'm gonna go for a pylon over here at the front too. Dragoon thinking about maybe getting a shot in on that Reaper. Or maybe it's just doing a little bit of sunbathing. I think saving the Zealot, though, is indeed the right call. There is, of course, a Zealot leg enhancement upgrade in the game. In the Citadel of Adun. Which is basically the Brood War equivalent of a Twilight Council. But that's not what we're going to go for here. It's going to be a Robo facility instead. Which, the couple of times I've seen this played so far, it seems to always lead towards a Reaver drop. I guess we can do a little bit of StarCraft trivia here, or at the very least we can make estimations as far as like who the players are. It seems like a lot of the retired pro gamers from StarCraft 2, a bunch of the streamers too, and just I guess Brood War players in general, a lot of them have been playing this mod. It's actually kind of fun to... This could be anybody. Honestly, this could be any Terran, any Protoss. Are we gonna go straight into the Robo support bay here as well? Yeah, you can't outrange this, obviously. Usually in Brood War, you have to be kind of delicate with the way you micro this. But I guess the pathing here does make it a bit easier. And this is exactly how it goes in StarCraft 1. You need to use your SCVs here to try and repair this. Although in this game, we're gonna apparently wait until we get a Cyclone out to try and push all of this back. It's, by the way, an observatory here. Observatory is a required structure in order to make an observer. Which is also kind of a fascinating concept. Yeah, in StarCraft 2, I always feel like Protoss in general is quite blind. They don't have a lot of vision. And in StarCraft Brood War, you even need to make an extra structure just to be able to make an observer, which is kind of nuts. Reaper, in the meantime, trying to get some kills. Okay, does get 2 probe kills here, which is not bad at all. SCV is still trying their best. Okay, Cyclone lock-on. It's got to connect, but it will not be able to finish up much of anything. Widowmine drop. Oh, no. Giving the Protoss a taste of their own Reaver medicine, huh? How do you like it now? No scarabs flying around your base. But there is ultimately the robo support bay. Okay. Yeah, in StarCraft 2 at some point they decided, you know what about all these upgrades that don't really do much, right? They made some design changes of things that weren't necessarily very fun. Although in the early days of StarCraft 2 as well, in the very early days, you did need to research, for example, siege mode for the siege tank too. And then they realized, wait a second, the unit is called a siege tank. Why does it not spawn with literally the name of the unit? Why does it not have that ability? So they did make a lot of those changes over the course of time. It's the same for, like, for example, the most recent example of that would be the, I mean, it's a couple of years old at this point, but it would be the carrier upgrade. Like, you would never play carriers without the interceptor upgrade. So they kind of just, like, baked it into the unit by default and changed some of the building times and stuff. It was a change that a lot of people necessarily did not agree with, but I think overall those useless upgrades are not terrible to get rid of. One that I would like to see in StarCraft 2 right now, for example, would be like a chitinous plating for the Ultralisks. Because you never play Ultralisk without chitinous plating. It seems like a pointless upgrade. What does it add? Anyways. Yeah, you don't have any attacks. The Reaver needs to have a Scarab available before it can fire. So you can see the little turret tracking right there, trying to see if it could potentially shoot at that Reaper, but it did not end up happening. Just staring aggressively. Citadel of Adun coming up right now together with Double Forge. So that does mean that our barcode Protoss here is going to have a tough time really achieving much of anything. As far as attacking goes, I mean, obviously he can fly with the shuttle, right? He can do some Reaver drops. Gravitic Drive at this point is done. So at least he can try and get some work in. I guess the Raven can use Interference Matrix, which is kind of an interesting concept. Maybe you should wait, right? Wait until the Reaver gets dropped off and then Interference Matrix the shuttle? So you can kill the Reaver? I think that would be the play. I mean, the Reaver is so slow, it's not going to be able to run. There's the leg enhancements coming up, though, for the Zealots. Stimpack finishing up here for the Terran player. Marauder is going to enjoy that quite a bit. Okay. Shoot him. Shoot him! Oh, we do have to shoot that a little bit easier, though. There's a moment where you can't fire with it. There you go. That was a decent hit, but not quite the pickup micro that we would love to see. Well, I think, honestly, those Dragoons are just messing... Yeah, they're not messing around, man. Those Dragoons are insane. Normally, a Marine Marauder push like that hits pretty hard, but the Dragoons alone, even though that wasn't really the perfect fight here for our Protoss, they're actually putting in a lot of work. Drop in the meantime, once again, inside of the main base. Quick reaction, though, from the Protoss. Push at the front as well. But without siege tanks, I don't think you really have to be too concerned. I mean, there's one tank right now with, like, 1 HP. May as well have 1 HP, because I think it dies to, like, one of those Dragoon shots. Gotta be careful. I've always liked Dragoons. I think Stalkers are a much more iconic unit at this point in time, but... Alright, I think Protoss should be able to stabilize here. Look at this little snail-looking thing, man. Ay. Yeah, getting another kill on that one is not bad at all. But ultimately, the Dragoons themselves get it done. I think having a couple additional Zealots in the mix would have been very handy. We're gonna go into the Storm research. Storm is easily my favorite looking ability in this mod so far. I've been fanboying over the way that Storm looks for every single time I've seen it. Apparently I get to fanboy a little bit more in this particular game too. Wannabe Valkyries are gonna be coming up here in just a moment for our Terran. But he's been securing the 3rd base, and that is honestly something to take note of, because Protoss is still stuck on just 2 bases. I am curious, by the way, how many minerals do we have per mineral field? So in StarCraft 2, you don't actually get that much cash on every single one of your bases. We do have another Widowmine drop apparently inside of the main base. Good reaction speeds right now, by the way, from our Protoss. Just in general, shutting this down with relative ease. Problem is that at some point, right, in StarCraft 2, your bases start running out. Right around 10 to 12 minutes, usually your main base is going to be empty. Or at least mostly empty. In Brood War, your bases tend to last a whole lot longer. So it's difficult to make those decisions, because that really is a core design principle. How do you decide in StarCraft Evo how much... Yeah, in StarCraft Evolution, how much money there should be for every base? So these are all 1800 minerals, yeah. So that is more than you would have in a StarCraft 2 base. In the meantime, we'd have a little bit of a Reaver drop here as well. Apparently not achieving too much. Both of these units pass each other by, which is kind of funny, because Medevac drops are kind of, like Widowmine drops in particular, are kind of like the Reaver drop of StarCraft Brood War. Now they pass each other in the middle of the map. Okay, Storm is done. Show me that beautiful animation. Doesn't that look sick? I love the look of that. It looks so good, man. Looks much better than the StarCraft 2 Storm. Woof, big hit as well. That's actually really quite beautiful. The combination here. Terran is thinking about doing a boost into the main base. There's not much to defend actually right now. And Protoss is way on the other side of the map. Oh, they're gonna start running back home. Reaver is gonna be brought back in as well, but... Brood War Storm hits really hard. One of the problems you run into, though, as a Brood War player, is one of those things you get very quickly used to, as we should have another Storm over here. Yep, there we go. Woo! Big damage. Oh, big damage as well from that Reaver. One problem you run into in Brood War, and that is one of those things you forget when you don't play it for a bit, is that there's no smart casting. There is no smart casting in that game at all. So if you have a hotkey with like 6 High Templar, and all of the High Templar are within range of this spot, and you try to cast Storm, all of the High Templar will cast Storm in that exact same location. The game does not consider, oh yeah, no, I only want to do one Storm in that location, because Storm it does not stack. Like, no abilities in these games really ever stack. So you have to select your individual High Templar to make sure you don't waste all the energy. And those are the sorts of design principles as well that need to be microed, because I'm assuming at least that there's no... You don't get rid of the smart casting when you make a mod like this. Okay, big EMP over there, and that's gonna shut down. Yeah, that's gonna shut down those High Templar, and even though they desperately tried to morph into an Archon, that won't be happening. Spells in these games don't usually stack. Like, for example, Sonic Storm. Unit damage, of course, does stack. Ooh. Okay, this Reaver control is a whole lot nicer. It's difficult to see, though, where the Storm starts and where it ends. Visually, it looks nice, but I do think it's not quite as easy to figure out what's happening. Looks like they added like a 1-second confusion or so on those Reavers when you do drop them down. Yeah. A couple more Templars show up. And ultimately, it looks like Terran is going to be able to inch ahead here. One thing that Terran has also done while this is all going on is go for a proxy base in the far top, or the far bottom left rather. So he's actually skipped an entire expansion. This is a 4-player map, so this would be one of the main bases of, well, a non-existent player. Okay. Expansion here does get spotted. Terran will find out about it here. But I think they'll be pretty happy to note that this is not even fully saturated yet. So now we're talking 72 workers right here for the Terran player versus only 47 probes. They have been trying their best to meet each other as far as the income goes, but Terran has been finding an advantage in that department. We can get a lot of value here out of these units, but I'm a little afraid that slowly over the next couple minutes, Protoss is just going to be whittled down because they don't have enough income. One thing, of course, that is available in StarCraft 2 is the Mule. And the Mule is very effective. So even if the worker count was even here, I would still like this a little bit better for the Terran. I don't know how on top he has been with those mules. Oh, a rich Vespene geyser over here too. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. Oh, it looks like a regular gas geyser. Interesting. The visual is identical to that of a regular gas geyser, but apparently it's a rich one. Observatory gets remade here because apparently it fell inside of the main. Okay, well, you know what? The fourth base does get the knight, and that is lovely. Terran is not really in a position to try and cut off these units. That obviously is one of the risks of sending your units in that direction, but you know what? Those Dragoons are putting in quite a bit of work. With a good hit on those Reavers, I do think it's possible, maybe, for Protoss to hold on. They do get mini-stunned for just a little bit whenever they get dropped down. Okay, good bit of Scarab damage, but okay, that's too much. Loses the Prism with both of the Reavers inside of it. Valiant effort right here from our Protoss, but he's been reduced to just a relatively small economy now. And even though he did shut down one of the expansions of the opponent, there is a base at the bottom. Now we're gonna go for a big drop towards the natural expansion. Liberators joining in the fray too. High Templar would love to start getting a hit in here, but yeah, now you're mostly storming your own zealots. And of course it does deal friendly fire. Alright, well that's one way of getting rid of those libs. Okay. Yeah, Terran's flying around. Protoss is desperately looking for a way out, but I think this might just be the killing blow here. Those ghosts coming into play nice and early really does make a difference. Yeah, those EMPs are so powerful. Funny how EMP is such a powerful skill, eh? Both in StarCraft 2, regular 1 versus 1, but also certainly against Protoss when it's played with the Brood War units instead. There's a lot of observers around, by the way. Protoss already falling victim to the all-army hotkey. In Brood War, you can only select like 12 units at a time. But apparently, even though in this game you can select a lot more, that is not withholding any Protoss players to properly hotkey their units. All-army hotkey, all the things. GG is cool. Ultimately, it is indeed going to be the Terran who obtains the victory.